first. And I don't see any new faces, I don't think. No, Juan, have you introduced yourself in these before?
Wait a second, guys. Well, hi. I already have like, I don't know, 3 weeks, I think, or 2 or 4 weeks with the CMB team with Anthony, Natalie, Daniel. So yeah, I'm in Colombia, and I've been, learning a little bit about all the products, pack, life cycle, and other ones. I already did my first PR, so I'm still learning, and I hope that I can help with the product and move forward.
Thanks, welcome. And sorry if you've been in here before. I just didn't know if you'd had a chance to say hi yet to the different folks at different companies. All right. So next thing on the agenda is next thing is release planning and updates. Kick that off with, I don't know, platform want to go first.
Sure, happy to. So we're gonna enter code freeze on Monday for a pack release. That's pretty much it. There will be one coming
Put your
soon.
stuff in if you want it. Yeah, if you want it out.
I guess I can give a quick update from the implementation team. We are actively working on issues for the next lifecycle release, which will be 0.12.0, and contain support for the first phase of stack packs, which is really validating a bunch of stuff at the beginning. Let us know if you're interested in picking up any issue. I think we have one unclaimed issue for validating registry auth.
All right, any other updates from sub teams? Anything notable on learning or distribution this week?
Distribution, we met, I think, this morning to talk about potentially builders in the registry. So there may be an RFC coming in the next week or so about that, with the hope that maybe it could help supplement or help with the pack suggest builders command instead of it just being a hard-coded list. And also from the registry, you could, like, for each individual build pack, having that data now would mean you could see what builders, say the Paketo Java build pack is in, or the Heroku build packs could be in builders that aren't just kind of owned by those companies as well.
I don't know if this is the right time to do so, but was there in that discussion any mention of maybe cataloging the languages that each builder supports?
There was not.
Okay.
All right, seems like that's it for sub-team updates. We'll move on to outstanding RFCs. And I'm gonna share my screen. All good? Awesome. First RFC is Buildpack author subteam. Seems like this is Emily's. This is a new one. Anything notable you want to put on the agenda?
Yeah, we should probably talk about it on the agenda, but I'll let Sam and Terrence lead it because I just kicked off a draft and they've really taken it all the way to fruition here.
Yeah, there's been some comments and suggestions. This is just combining Emily and Sam's drafts plus some of my own stuff. So the three of us kind of putting this together. Went up last Thursday, so if you haven't had a chance, I think it's ready for review. There's been some good discussion discourse, so I still have to make a few updates, but I don't think there's like a ton of drastic requests or changes in the RFC. But if people do want to talk about it more, I'm happy to add it as an agenda item.
Sounds good.
Be good to just give everyone an introduction.
Okay. Add it.
Sorry, this needs labels. I shouldn't have clicked on the other one. This is definitely not doesn't have a sub team because it's proposing a new sub team. So core probably, yeah. And no spec changes. Good. All right, make build layers read only for subsequent build packs.
So based on the last RFC deep dive meeting, I changed this RFC to just include the read-only parts, and I'll create a subsequent RFC with the shared layers stuff that we discussed. I just wanted to separate it out because like I tried to shoehorn in that whole shared layer stuff and it wasn't going well with the existing RFC, so I just decided to separate that out.
Makes sense. It seemed like organizationally it'd be easier for people to parse separately.
Yes.
But feel free to put, because I know everybody seemed to feel like we couldn't do one without the other. Feel free to, even in the RFC text for either of them, put a codependency on the other C, so that people, even when you're reading the RFC, you know, this thing wasn't done in isolation. You go here for how you do it now, right? I think that should be like part of the text. Cool. Do we want to put this on the agenda or all good for today? Maybe we'll see when we go over the next one. Did you open a new one yet? Seems like not yet.
Not yet.
I guess if you want to talk about this today, it seems like we got to a pretty good conclusion at the kind of deep dive we did, but if you want to talk about it, put it on the agenda.
Should I instead like do it when I have the other RFC open so we can look at both together?
Yep, that makes sense. Just wanted to make sure you did one time this week. Add bomb to layer content metadata. This is in FCP. FCP closes. This was been in FCP for a long time.
Before you scroll up and shame me, I'm pretty sure that I need to merge this one.
Cool. And then moving on to the next one. Allow setting default.
I'll preempt you on shaming me on this too. I actually did start the RFC for the new proposal for bachelor's process types. I found a little bit of time to work on it. It's about halfway done. Maybe I'll just throw up the very rough whip so people can see it after this meeting, but progress is happening.
Great. No pressure, just going through the list. Next one is disambiguate layer metadata files from app metadata. This looks like it has a lot of approvals. Does this FCP?
The only thing is like these last few cases, I know we were still divided between alternate 4 and the proposed solution, and the new shared layers RFC that I'm planning to write, I was hoping that if we use this new structure, that would actually fit in nicely on where to put that shared layers directory, because otherwise we'll have to figure out yet another place and mount for that one.
Proposal here.
That actually combines everything. So this also combines like the app door. I think I don't know if maybe we can discuss this later. I'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like
Might be another one that could, I don't know if you want to do another deep dive on this one, because I feel like there's a couple people who are going to want to bike shed about directory names, but I don't know if it's broadly interesting. I feel like the implementation team cares a lot, and Sam and Steven care. I would guess that most other people don't care that much. Does that sound right?
Should it just be done at a implementation subteam, think?
Yeah, maybe we could reserve one of those to just go over this in detail.
So it seems like we don't want to necessarily bike shed on the directory names. Do we want to keep this off the agenda completely, or do we want to talk about some aspects of this today? Maybe put it at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I do want to bite shit on the directory names. I just worry that we've done this a couple times and we say things out loud like we should add app and rename it to workspace, but it's sort of hard. I feel like we keep coming back instead of making it actionable. And I was wondering if in a small group we could actually collaborate on writing something up in a way that incorporates those suggestions in a way that's not as appropriate for the working group.
That's not good.
The agenda is very short for the working group, so I mean, we can add
Okay.
that as the last item.
Yeah, we can just do it at the end too. Sorry.
So if people want to leave, they can leave.
Yeah, any other time we'd hold them hostage.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. At the end of the agenda, and also probably when we talk about it, focus on names of parts of the subpath first. And then actually that's it. Those are all the RFCs this week. I'm gonna stop sharing and we'll jump into the agenda.
So is that RFC not an FCP then, if we're still discussing a bike shedding?
I think you got a lot of approvals before we went through a lot of iterations on it. So I wonder if maybe we should be re-requesting them. Because I don't think, from my understanding, I didn't think we had reached a final point where we were ready to merge it yet.
I would say we should remove that label if we're still actively discussing it then.
It's not labeled, doesn't have label. Yeah. But I'm happy to re-request folks here. I'll just hit some buttons for the core team members. All right. Next thing on the agenda is does anybody want to scribe today? Probably should ask that
Should be at the top of the agenda.
earlier. Yeah.
I put that there. I'm a little distracted today, so I'm not able to, I think, fully participate. I was wondering if somebody else would like to scribe. If we think
take that, Natalie.
That's still useful.
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome. Then next up is, I think we have a new maintainer. Somebody want to make, I think somebody's going to make the announcement.
Yeah, I could take some of that. All right. So it is with great honor that I announce Sam has been elected to be a maintainer of the learning subteam. If you don't know Sam, he is somewhere on your screen. But yeah, he's been doing a lot of really good work with our documentation. He spearheaded and kind of wrote a few guides in Katacoda, which is an online interactive guide. And then, he's been around our community supporting end users in Slack and also at KubeCon. So that was really helpful. So yeah, really appreciate the work there and welcome to the team.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, and I look forward to working with all of you in this new role.
Hey, super awesome. Glad to see you here.
All right, so I believe Joe will reach out to you and get you all set up.
Yeah.
Yeah, the best part is you got to write the mini bio for the newsletter about yourself.
All right, that's awesome news. I'll move us to the next item, which is Buildpack authors subteam RFC.
Cool. Like Emily said, even though she's the author of it, I will present it. I don't know how you're going to vote on this, Emily, but I guess we'll figure out a way. Yeah, so this has been, I think, discussed a few times in the working group. I want to say for like the last few weeks. And so this is really just making it an actual RFC and official. Sorry for my delinquency on carrying this through. But we wanted to have, this proposes basically a actual sub team that is focused on the Buildpack author audience. Whereas I think today with the sub teams we have, it's kind of mixed between the various sub teams for kind of championing and being responsible for that Buildpack author experience. There's, you know, the Buildpack API, and that's kind of handled between the core team and also within Lifecycle as well as kind of the platform side. And we've seen stuff with Joe's RFC with like the Buildpack create stuff. And so, and then also implementation owns like libcmb. So it's kind of like all over the place. And we want to have a single home for kind of taking and championing this core audience. And so with this sub team, it will take ownership of the libcmb repository from the implementation team, as well as thinking about potentially other language bindings that are kind of out there, and maybe bring some of that stuff in or not. It's kind of up to the sub team there. And so responsibilities for language, this kind of lays out like responsibilities for actual what it means to maintain an official language binding for the project. There's been some kind of modification stuff around basic collaborating with other teams, kind of for championing the things that pertain to Buildpack authors, and also with the Buildpack API, this sub team will kind of have a closer eye to changes for the Buildpack API specifically as that affects Buildpack authors. And stuff that is kind of scoped in the future would be things like the project templates that kind of came out of the Buildpacks create RFC as one of the future works. Potentially even test harnesses for making it easier for Buildpack authors to write and test Buildpacks, and then stuff around things like inline or pack file to make it even easier for escape hatches for people needing to write Buildpacks. And so yeah, that's this RFC. Either one of the alternatives that was suggested when I was talking with Joe was maybe combining this with the distribution team. If we're concerned about having too many small teams, that is a team of 2 people. And there is some overlap between kind of the Buildpack author publishing experience. But I do think it's somewhat of a weak overlap, but yeah, that's
it's interesting, right? There's a bridge there effectively between the 2 teams. Someone needs to own what it means to get something into the registry, for example. I think there's a similar overlap with there's a GitHub action that installs pack, for example, and so like has the same kind of thing where maybe the pack thing should own it or should be the distribution team. But I am kind of a fan of actually moving a lot of that bit of it out of the distribution team. I realize that leaves the distribution team as basically owning the registry exclusively, but it does feel like all of those GitHub actions and tools like it are centered around GitHub authors today. Or sorry, Buildpack authors.
So you do think this team should own those GitHub actions versus distribution?
I think there's a really compelling story for it. If asked, I would almost certainly vote yes, we should do that. The one thing that holds me up is that leaves the distribution team with nothing. Now, part of the problem is whether or not you think the registry is going to become a bigger thing in the future, like require more work. If you think the answer to that is yes, right? Like that it's going, we need to add new features to it. We need to work more on the UI for it. We need to integrate with X, Y, and Z and add different kinds of security. Like maybe that's enough for the distribution team to own that, but it does seem like it really ends up being something small.
Yeah, that's okay too. Like we can have smaller sub teams. Like I never expected distribution to be as big as like implementation or platform, right?
Yeah.
Which are kind of the two big core sub teams. And also, I think you may have missed this, Ben. I don't know if you joined late, but there was a discussion about expanding the registry to also contain like builders.
Yeah.
So we can link like Buildpacks to builders, and it can kind of plug into, suggest builders in pack.
Yeah, like we'd long had that. Like there was talk about whether or not we wanted to do stacks might show up there one day, or assets. Like there's a million things that probably need to go into the registry that I think can justify it standing alone as a team.
Yeah, it's also the only team that has kind of the operational, I think.
Yep,
burden.
the only team that carries a pager.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking is that there's a lot of logic in Pack around implementing the distribution API. Like you could extract that into a library that Pack pulls in and sort of like make the distribution team responsible for implementing the distribution API.
That makes sense. But it sounds like you're in favor of having this as a separate team from distribution, Ben.
Yeah, I reserve the right to change my mind in the future, but I don't think we should collapse it complete. I don't think we should collapse distribution completely into this.
I have a question kind of about perception. So we, as a project, we've said we don't necessarily, I don't know how strongly opinionated we are about this, but we don't necessarily want Buildpacks to be in the Cloud Native Buildpacks project, which confuses a lot of people externally that are called Cloud Native Buildpacks and talk about Buildpacks. But if you go to Buildpacks.io, there are no Buildpacks. You have to go to different projects that provide Buildpack implementations or a registry of curated Buildpacks. Do we worry that having a Buildpack a subteam called Buildpack author subteam and continuing to not have Buildpacks in the project, does that make any, or like, I don't have a problem with it. I think it makes sense. I just wanted to call out that that's kind of, there's an angle here. Maybe it's worth some consideration.
In my mind, if we called it Buildpacks, which was my original suggestion, you run into more of that problem. Buildpack author seems like it's focusing on serving the persona, but you could like throw a word like tooling on the end there if it made you feel better. Buildpack author tooling subteam.
Then we can get a bat logo. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's not a real concern. I just thought if people hadn't thought of that, it might be worth bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, to Emily's point, that is explicitly her original RFC actually had just Buildpack, and I added author, and I think Sam also had authors there, because I think it is very ambiguous if you have a team called Buildpacks, like what their scope is. It's been brought up a handful of times, just like it's hard to address when you talk about Buildpacks. Do you mean the project? Do you mean a Buildpack? Do you mean the spec? Like what are you actually talking about?
Makes sense. Buildpack author subteam kind of sounds like a subteam of Buildpack authors is why. But
or four, yeah.
It's not a strong opinion. I just thought that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to call it Buildpack author tooling if that makes it clear. And bat is a single syllable, so there's that.
My other question is, while we're refactoring the teams, do we want to rename implementation to lifecycle? Because I feel like it gets a bit weird when you say, it's responsible for the implementation of the spec. Like each Buildpack is an implementation of the Buildpack spec, right? Platform is an implementation of the platform spec. I'm not sure it's conveys as much meaning to folks who aren't. I think it might be confusing to people coming into the project who want to know how to talk to the lifecycle team.
I think that makes sense with the creation of this team. I can include that in this RC if we just want to knock out 2 birds with 1 stone.
Are we committed to changing the specification so that instead of a Buildpack API and a platform API, we have a platform API, a lifecycle API, and a Buildpack API, I guess. That's
Well, you don't have a lifecycle API. You have a lifecycle spec, and the lifecycle exposes the platform API. You have a platform spec, and you have a Buildpack spec and API. Yeah.
I should have said platform spec, which is things a platform must do, lifecycle spec, which is things a lifecycle must do, and Buildpack spec, which is things a Buildpack must do. And then, yes, you're right, the API contract.
There's 2 APIs.
Yeah, sorry, I just misspoke. If we're committed to that change too, then I think it makes total sense to rename the subteam as well.
What else does implementation own? Lifecycle and libcmb, is that it?
Yeah.
Image util, but I don't know if it's arguably just a lifecycle tool for the most part.
Image util, because image util needed a home, but a lot of people need to use it. But the lifecycle is a handful. I think it's enough for a whole team by itself.
I think the charter of the lifecycle subteam shouldn't be narrowly defined as maintenance of the lifecycle repo, but maintenance of the, presenting the lifecycle interface, including the current implementation of the lifecycle repo. I know that seems very nitpicky, but it's like I like the platform subteam being anything that falls under this category of this side of the API, if that makes sense. If the implementation subteam, I don't think it should just be about maintaining one repo. It should be about the outcome of implementing that part of the specification and providing the different API contracts.
It does make sense. I think it is an anti-pattern to name a team after a single product or thing, right? Because, then there's the inertia if you want to increase the scope or a little bit or later on down the line. That's just what I've heard, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
Very open to alternatives. I just feel like implementation is confusing to people.
It's too vague. Yeah.
I think I have the same gut reaction as Anthony, and that it's a little unfortunate that it's the same name as the repository, right? But I also can't think of any better. I think it's just that we named the internal our blessed implementation of it to be the same as the thing that the specification said, right? It's just like if you name pack platform, right? Or something.
Yes. So let's rename the lifecycle repo to something else.
Yeah, perfect.
Give it a product name. I don't know, something catchy and funny.
Either starts with builder pack, probably.
Right? Builder. I guess because there are some minor questions involving the rename of the implementation subteam, I would maybe recommend that it be a separate RFC, even if it's just as simple as saying renaming the team itself.
Yeah, I'm happy to not add scope.
So Emily, how much do you care about it to do it?
I don't care whether it's part of this RFC or not. We probably won't get around to it anytime soon if it's not, but that's fine. I was just thinking that as we take libcmb out, something that was already confusing gets even more confusing in some ways. But I don't care about it enough to insert a blocker in front of a thing that I care about a lot, which is getting this subteam off the ground.
The only other kind of open question, so I guess I didn't cover this, but I nominated myself to be the core person on there, and then Sam will be a contributor and probably be a maintainer soon on that. But there is, I think Ben historically has owned libcmb. I don't know if Ben has any ties or wants to come along for that ride, but I assume not.
A year ago, I would have demanded leadership of this particular sub-team. It is near and dear to my heart and something I observed that like we broadly miss a lot. There are a lot of voices around platform here and very few as actual Buildpack authors. And so that'd be great. Alas, I do not have the time to do it. And so I will just chew off your ear, Terrence, while you do the good work.
I think if I'm remembering correctly, this is your reason for wanting to be a maintainer on the implementation subteam, right? Because it owned libcmb.
Oh yeah, I'm out at that point as well.
You want to add an implementation as well?
Yeah. Maybe contributor to the back team.
Cool. And then I think the only other kind of open questions were like, what does it mean around collaboration between like stuff like pack or inline Buildpack? I think that was raised in the RFC. I think that will just be a figure out how to work well with the other sub teams. But we're probably not going to own anything like in pack per se, but probably would shepherd stuff through if it pertained or championed kind of those issues. I think there is a big part of this sub team that is also advocating for the interests of those authors, even if it doesn't mean actually writing the lifecycle implementation of something, for instance.
Yeah, like I'd expect team members to be, foremost in discussions in RFCs and spec changes and stuff like that about how that usability is, even more than the software that they have to maintain.
Cool. If that's it, happy to move on.
I think the last one on the agenda is that RFC around disambiguating layer metadata. Let me share my screen.
While Sam's sharing that, I tried to unmute myself earlier, but then it kernel panicked and I had to reboot. My comment at the bottom was meant to kind of be a draft. We discussed at the implementation meeting this last week that we were going to try to put up a couple versions of what could be the new layout, and then we could argue over the naming. And I think Emily was going to pull one up there. We were going to vote and sort of work off of hers, but I guess it hasn't happened yet. So I went ahead and threw mine up there late last week.
You're talking about this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what were the open questions since last time? I think one of the questions was whether we want the current proposed, let me open up the readable version. Whether we want the current proposed layout or this alternative 4, which we fall under if we have to maintain, like when we get into backwards compatibility. And I guess this new layout, which also includes the adapter, makes even more changes to the existing proposed layout, which is this one.
I think the reason we need to fold the after into this proposal is because Stephen was not okay with this being called the output. And the only alternative that everyone agreed on was workspace, but that's the name of the current after. So as part of that, we bring app under workspace. I think that is a little different than what Jesse proposed, though, where app would still need to be a separate volume because it's not underneath the workspace.
Yeah, I think I maybe just put that in the wrong place. I do think that it should be under build workspace. I can edit that. I think it's just a mistake.
Is the idea here to have, or okay, first question, is this, the thing that's proposed here is best version of the proposal so far, except we'd say that app would move under build workspace. Is that right? Or are there other changes to this that people think should happen?
One of the things I like that Jesse did here was introduce places to sort of put some of our files that we just leave littered around. So sort of files that the platform might be writing on the fly rather than using baked into the container. So it needs to be on a volume, like order toml, and files that the lifecycle uses to pass data from one phase to another. I don't think we have to make these changes as part of this proposal. But the more changes we do in a single proposal in this particular directory structure limits the complexity for the implementation team of maintaining combinations of things.
I updated the comment if you want to refresh, but the I might never mind. It's totally missed it.
It's all lifecycle now. Lifecycle subteams taking over the world.
So in this proposal, there's 2 overlapping volumes. Is that right? Or there's just, sorry, go ahead.
I think it's set up such that you could have 2 volumes that are overlapping in a system like Tecton that probably wants that, or you could have one in a platform like Pack that really has no need to make these volumes separate.
The overlapping volumes in the Tecton case would be app overlapping with build workspace.
Yeah.
It was better when app was in CNB, so we didn't have to deal with the, I guess sometimes you want them to be together. That's why they should be the same thing, so that you can have the simplest possible implementation, right?
Yeah, like you could take it out and say always 2 volumes. If someone wants to advocate that that's better because of path names or something and overlapping volumes are weird, that's fine with me. I don't really care.
I think overlapping volumes, I would prefer to avoid if there's no reason to have them, but if they exist in order to allow the optionality of 1 volume or 2 volumes, that sounds like a great reason to have them because they're well supported on, you know.
The theory is 1 volume is easier to think about than 2. But maybe enough platforms would be in the case where they need to that it's not worth doing it.
There can be some kind of weird things with overlapping volumes, but they're not hard things to account for, right? You probably want to make sure that there's nothing in the place you're mounting over, and that you unmount the top one before the bottom one usually. Right?
I thought that was configurable, so you could just move the app door outside of this through this environment variable and just.
That was my kind of thought. Anything that needs to be a level under build workspace by default would have its own configurable envar to move it elsewhere, so that if you didn't want to deal with overlapping or whatever, then you do whatever you want.
It would be great if we could come up with a default configuration that we believed worked for most people, if that makes sense. Or like people didn't have to move that directory path. But I think in this way, you could still use this with 1 or 2 volumes in this directory structure. Or if you really didn't like the overlapping volumes a lot, you can move app outside and it would all work. Does anybody feel about CNB used to be like, kind of metadata-ish, not active user files, kind of coming from platform a little bit. Now it's like, it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like, oh, this is the whole it's everything build pack related, right? I like how short it is. Like it doesn't extend the layer paths enormously more.
I thought you would not like this because now build workspace is in the layer path. So we've gone from workspace to build dash workspace and added something to the beginning.
I don't like build dash works. We said we weren't going to talk about the names of the individual
Oh.
thing. Hey,
But
think
whatever they're called, it is still one more directory than the proposal the last time I looked at it. It's not shorter, it's longer, right?
I think if that one more directory is just C and B at the beginning, because it's not, and again, this is very much getting into something we said we weren't going to talk about, but because it's not in one of the proposals, like output, right, indicates that it doesn't make sense in the context of the final build image. You know, having build packs doesn't make sense because there were some versions of it that I don't think semantically made sense for what you got in the end. But if it's just 4 characters at the beginning, then no, I can't think of anything else. And everybody else is aligned to it, I think it's okay.
It's 4 characters and then whatever the thing we were trying to name. So it's CMB workspace. It's not just CMB before layers.
Okay. As layers moved into workspace.
Yeah.
Oh, and before it was just layers that were.
I'm not arguing that that's bad. I just feel like I know your opinion on this topic.
Also, that's a good point.
And we need something like workspace because otherwise you need like 7 volumes.
This would also help with that shared layers proposal because then we could just put it here. So you could have like a shared layers subdirectory alongside layers instead of creating yet another volume.
Kind of helps with a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the main driver for me, is to have like somewhere so that when we have a new directory, we know where it goes instead of just dumping it in the layers because it's the only volume we have.
Could we move build workspace to the top level, call that CNB, and then rename CNB to something else?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't care about the name personally.
Change it all. The other things are not on a volume, so they could be top level. There's no need to group them all. But I feel like there's some desire not to pollute the top level, but you could have Buildpacks and lifecycle at the top level if you wanted to. I think the one thing that's a bit weird about that is this. We should come back and do this with like literally every single file in the system because I think we're missing like the builders order toml and stack toml and other things that wouldn't have a home in that case.
Yeah, because that just lives under like CMB, right? Isn't it like just CMB / order toml? Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah, I introduced platform config in this one just so that we weren't dumping like the order toml that could be generated by like a prepare. But yeah, we should probably go through and add more files.
So from where we are here, flatten the top level and then rename, just get rid of that top level completely and rename build workspace to CNB. Why?
Yeah, what are you going to do with order toml and stack toml? That's the next question.
Throw it in.
They can't go in the workspace because they're not on the volume. They're baked
Stack
into the
config.
image.
Probably stack config if we're just following like naming conventions here, right? Or
It'd be
builder
nice.
if we formalize builder, we can use that word.
Yeah, and it seems gonna have a problem with that too. I do wonder if we could just use the word builder for the container that runs. Like a builder image is an optional extension, a way to distribute builders, but the builder itself is just the container the lifecycle runs in.
How about because build packs? So lifecycle is there on the stack images, right? Is that right?
No.
And the run image, it's never on the run image anymore.
It gets put in the run image by the exporter. It doesn't show up there.
Okay, so then move build packs and lifecycle into builder and then put the rest of the stuff at builder. And there are only 2 top level things, /CNB and /builder. And then builder becomes part of the builder extension spec. But no, then I guess you end up with builder in the run image. That's the problem. So it's kind of spec'd.
It doesn't, there's no reason it has to live at the same path in the run image that it does in the builder image. In some ways, it is easier to find it that way if you're used to knowing where the life cycle is. But it's not a necessity.
Does it even have to be in a directory for the run image? Could we put like just a launcher at the root? Like it doesn't get all of lifecycle, right? It just gets the launcher.
We could put it at the root.
I've had people complain about the like /cnv /lifecycle /launcher. They're like, what is this path? And so like I think it would be a little cleaner if it was just like /launcher web or whatever, or / yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a CMV process web now, but
The process symlinks exist in the.
Oh yeah, there's a subdirectory in there with process symlinks too.
That those are adjacent to launcher.
Yeah.
So I don't think we want to put it at the root. I don't think.
Well, you call that then /processes /launch, and you got your launcher, your processes, and then maybe that's somewhere we could eventually put what is now metadata toml in a weird place that contains the list of all the process config. Maybe that goes in there too.
So there's like a /builder in the builder that has the Buildpacks in the lifecycle, and then there's a I don't know, some launch image type directory. You don't have to name it right now, in the run image, and that's where the runtime things copied over from the builder, or however you built your image, if it didn't involve a builder, end up. And then there's a /cnb in the build time based image thing, builder, whatever you want to call it, that is this volume that has all these directories in it, where you can submount app as a sub volume of that, and then has a directory structure suggested by Jesse. Does that seem? I think I've tied everything together.
it's hard to visualize, but it sounds reasonable when you say it out loud.
Poor Sam is like, every time we talk about this, you attach more things to my RFC. I just wanted to solve a simple problem.
I was gonna suggest, like, if one of the implementation team members wanna take over this RFC, or I mean, at this point, you'll have like 5 or 6 alternatives or something in one RFC. So
We can maybe hash this out in the implementation meeting tomorrow. Oh wait, never mind. I'm not gonna be here tomorrow, but yeah, if we wanted to do it there as a team, we could.
As a quick recommendation, I think we should cut it here for discussing it verbally, and someone else should write another exemplar layout like this.
Are you trying to give away ownership of it, Sam?
I mean, if I think the implementation team is better placed to make these changes because they have more context around all of these different files than I do.
It sounds like Jesse might want to own it.
I could take another stab at it and see if it aligns with folks, and then I can update the RFC if people like the directory structure. But I'll just work on like a mock directory structure for now.
Awesome. Seems like we're done with that. I don't think there were subsequent things in the agenda, unless somebody added something. Where'd the agenda go? No, that's it. And we're 5 minutes till the end, so I think we should just call it early unless anybody else has other topics. We can go get coffee or something. Thanks.